Captain Velter floated in the center of the command chamber, his translucent body pulsing with anxiety. The gentle blue lights that normally danced across the crystalline walls of their ship had dimmed to an alarming orange. Warning sounds echoed through the corridors like sad songs. "How long do we have?" Velter asked his engineer, trying to keep his voice steady. 6 hours, maybe 7 if we reduce life support to minimum. Wisptel replied, her delicate tendrils trembling as she worked at the control panel. "The asteroid field damaged our main power core. We're running on backup systems now." The Zephyrian research vessel Gentle Current had been exploring this quiet sector of space. For 3 months, they were scientists, not adventurers. Their mission was simple: study the beautiful nebula formations in this area and return home with data about cosmic dust patterns. Nothing dangerous, nothing exciting, just the kind of peaceful work their people had done for thousands of years. But space had other plans. The asteroid field had appeared on their sensors too late. These weren't the slow, predictable rocks they had studied before. These asteroids moved fast and sharp, like angry insects swarming through the void. Their ship's gentle deflector shields, designed to push away cosmic dust, crumpled like paper against the impact. Now they drifted helplessly between star systems, too far from any planet to reach safety, too damaged to fix themselves. "Send them. Distress call on all frequencies," Velter ordered. "Someone has to be out there." The message went out into the darkness. "This is Captain Velter of the research vessel Gentle Current. We have suffered catastrophic damage and require immediate assistance. 12 crew members aboard. Life support failing. Please help." They waited. Space remained quiet. Hours passed. The orange warning lights grew dimmer as power levels dropped. The crew gathered in the main chamber, their graceful bodies huddled together for comfort. Some of the younger researchers had begun to glow with stress, their natural bioluminescence flickering like candles in a storm. "Captain," called their communications officer, "I'm detecting 3 vessels within range." Velter's hopes lifted. "Can they help us?" "The first ship is a cargo transport, but they're too small to take all of us. The second is a passenger liner, but they're 12 hours away. The third—" The officer paused, studying his readings with confusion. "The third ship is unknown to our databases." "How far is this unknown ship?" 2 hours away. "And they're already changing course toward us." Before Velter could respond, their communication system crackled to life. The voice that came through was unlike anything they had ever heard. It was rough, deep, and spoke in sharp bursts that made their delicate hearing organs ache. "Gentle Current, this is Captain Rodriguez of the mining vessel Resilience. We received your distress call and are moving to assist. Can you tell us the nature of your emergency?" The Zephyrians looked at each other with uncertainty. The voice sounded so harsh, so aggressive, but they were dying, and this unknown ship was their closest hope. "Captain Rodriguez," Velter replied carefully, "we have suffered hull damage and power core failure. Our life support will fail within 6 hours. We need evacuation for 12 crew members." "Understood. We'll be there in 90 minutes. Can your people survive in an oxygen-nitrogen atmosphere at 1 standard gravity?" The numbers made no sense to Velter. 1 standard gravity? That would crush them. And oxygen-nitrogen? That combination was used by very few species in the known galaxy, and most of them were considered dangerous. We require low gravity and filtered atmosphere," Velter explained. "Our species cannot survive in heavy environments." There was silence on the channel for a moment. Then the rough voice returned, gentler this time. "We'll figure something out. Just hold tight. Help is coming." As the unknown ship approached, their sensors began picking up detailed readings. What they saw made their situation seem even more frightening than before. The approaching vessel was massive, built like a fortress rather than a civilian craft. Its hull was thick metal covered in what looked like battle scars. The ship moved through space with purpose, accelerating at speeds that would turn most galactic species into paste. From the pressure alone, "Captain," Wisptel whispered, "the energy readings from that ship, they're off the charts. Their power core is running at levels that could blow up a small moon if it went wrong. And look at this," added their sensor operator, "the atmosphere. Inside their ship shows oxygen levels that would be toxic to us, pressure that would crush us, and trace amounts of compounds we don't even recognize. Velter felt a chill run through his translucent body. What kind of beings could live in such a harsh environment? What kind of species build ships like flying weapons? Maybe we should contact one of the other ships, suggested a young researcher. This unknown vessel, it doesn't seem safe. But even as fear crept into their hearts, they all knew the truth. The other ships were too far away. This mysterious vessel called Resilience was their only hope of living through the next few hours. Captain Rodriguez, Velter called over the communication system. We are grateful for your assistance, but we must ask, what kind of beings are you? Your ship readings are unlike anything in our databases. Another pause, then a sound that took them a moment to recognize as laughter, but it wasn't the gentle, musical laughter of civilized species. This was rough and loud, like rocks grinding together. We're humans, Captain Velter, from a planet called Earth. Don't worry, we're here to help. We've never met your species before, but a distress call is a distress call. We don't leave people to die in space, humans. The name meant nothing to them. No species by that name existed in any galactic database. These were completely unknown beings from an unknown world, with technology that seemed designed for war rather than peace. As the massive ship drew closer, filling their viewing screens with its intimidating bulk, Velter wondered if they had made a terrible mistake. Were they about to be rescued, or were they about to face something far worse than a slow death in the void? The ship called Resilience moved alongside their damaged vessel with precision that spoke of extensive experience with dangerous situations. Through the viewing ports, Velter could see movement inside the other ship, shadows of bipedal figures moving with quick, efficient motions. Prepare for docking. Came the rough voice of Captain Rodriguez. We're going to get you out of there. But as the alien ship extended mechanical arms toward their hull, as cutting tools began to glow with intense heat, as these unknown humans prepared to breach their vessel, Velter couldn't shake the feeling that they were about to meet something the galaxy had never seen before. Something that might be more dangerous than the vacuum of space itself. The sound that came through the hull made every Zephyrian jump in terror. It was like thunder, but sharper, more focused. Sparks of brilliant light appeared along their ship's outer wall as the humans began cutting through the metal. There, burning through our hull, Wisptail gasped, her delicate form trembling. No civilized species would do such a thing. They could damage our life support systems. Captain Velter watched the cutting process with growing horror. The humans worked with tools that glowed white-hot, melting through their ship's protective barrier as if it were made of ice. Any normal rescue operation would involve careful docking procedures, gentle atmospheric connections, and slow, safe transfer protocols. These humans seemed to have never heard of gentle. Breach complete, came the rough voice over their communication system. We're coming aboard now. Please move to a safe distance from the entry point. The Zephyrians huddled together at the far end of their main chamber, watching as the cut section of their hull fell inward with a heavy crash that shook their entire vessel. What came through the opening made their worst fears seem small. The first human to enter their ship was enormous, at least twice the height of any Zephyrian, covered head to toe in some kind of armored suit that made mechanical sounds with every movement. The being moved onto thick legs, each step creating vibrations through the floor that the aliens could feel in their bones. Hello there, the human called out, its voice now coming directly from the suit rather than through their communication system. The sound was still rough and intimidating, but there was something else in it now. Something that might have been kindness, if such a harsh voice could carry such an emotion. 3 more humans followed the first one through the breach. Each one was similarly massive, similarly armored, and moved with the same heavy, purposeful steps. They carried equipment that looked more like weapons than rescue tools, devices with sharp edges, bright lights, and mechanical parts that whirred and clicked ominously. I'm Captain Rodriguez, the first human announced, raising one hand in what might have been a greeting gesture. This is Dr. Patel, Engineer Chen, and Specialist Kumar. We're here to help. The names meant nothing to the Zephyrians, but what terrified them was how the humans moved. They didn't float gracefully like civilized beings. They stomped around on their two legs, making noise with every step, turning their heads quickly to scan the room like predators searching for prey. Dr. Patel approached the group of huddled aliens, pulling out a device that looked like a scanner crossed with a surgical tool. When he pointed it at them, several of the younger Zephyrians fainted from fear. "Easy there," Dr. Patel said, his voice slightly less harsh than the captain's, but still frightening to alien ears. "I just need to check your vital signs. Make sure you're all healthy enough for transport." But to the Zephyrians, the device looked like an instrument of torture. It had sharp probes, flashing lights, and made beeping sounds that hurt their sensitive hearing. When Dr. Patel tried to move closer, they shrank back even further. "They're afraid of us," Engineer Chen observed, her voice carrying through her suit's speaker system. She was examining their ship's damaged systems, running her gloved hands over delicate control panels that had never been touched by such heavy appendages. "Look how they're trembling. Can't imagine why," Specialist Kumar muttered, pulling out what looked like a miniature cannon. "It's just a plasma cutter. Standard rescue equipment." To the humans, these were simple tools. To the Zephyrians, they were devices of destruction wielded by armored giants who had just torn through their ship's hull. Like it was paper, Captain Rodriguez knelt down, trying to make himself smaller and less threatening. Even crouched, he was still larger than any Zephyrian. "Captain Velter, we need to get you and your crew to safety. Our ship has medical facilities and life support systems that can keep you alive until we reach a proper rescue station." "Your ship," Velter managed to whisper, "the atmospheric readings we detected. They show conditions that would end our lives instantly." "Right, about that," Rodriguez replied, pulling out a small device and checking its display. "Our ship runs at standard Earth gravity and atmosphere. That's about 6 times heavier than what you're used to. And yeah, our air would probably poison you. But we've got emergency environmental suits and a modified cargo bay we can set up for you." The casual way he spoke about conditions that would instantly crush and poison them made the aliens even more afraid. What kind of beings lived in such a harsh environment? What kind of planet could produce creatures that needed 6 times normal gravity just to feel comfortable? Engineer Chen had moved to their power core, examining the damage with equipment that looked far too aggressive for delicate repair work. "This is an easy fix," she announced, pulling out tools that sparked and hummed with energy. "I can patch this up in 20 minutes. Easy fix," Wisptel squeaked. "That power core is operating on principles that took our civilization centuries to understand. How can you possibly repair it so quickly?" Chen shrugged, a gesture that looked strange and intimidating in her bulky suit. "It's just a matter of bypassing the damaged sections and rerouting power through the secondary conduits. Same principle as fixing a broken engine in an asteroid mining rig." She began working with tools that threw sparks and made grinding noises. To the Zephyrians, it looked like she was attacking their delicate technology with primitive weapons. But somehow, impossibly, their ship's systems began responding. "Let's group brighter." The air recycling system hummed back to life. Dr. Patel had given up trying to scan the terrified aliens directly. Instead, he was taking readings from a distance, shaking his head at his device's display. "Captain, these beings are incredibly fragile. Their bone structure is more like cartilage. Their organs are designed for low-pressure environments, and their nervous systems are so sensitive they're probably in pain just from the sound of our voices. We're trying to help them," Specialist Kumar pointed out, "but they act like we're here to hurt them. Look at it from their perspective," Rodriguez said quietly, though his definition of quiet was still loud enough to make the aliens wince. "We just cut through their ship. We're wearing what looks like battle armor, and we're twice their size. We probably look like the galaxy's most terrifying pirates." The truth was even worse than that. The humans looked like something from the Zephyrians' oldest nightmares, stories their ancestors told about mythical beings from dead worlds, creatures so tough they could survive anywhere, so dangerous they could end civilizations without trying. Engineer Chen finished her repairs and stood up, wiping her hands on her suit. "All done. Your power core is running at 90% efficiency now. better than it was before the damage. Actually, she had repaired in 20 minutes what should have taken their best engineers days to fix. She had done it with tools that looked like weapons, working in conditions that should have required careful environmental protection, handling technology that wasn't even from her species. Now, Captain Rodriguez said, "Let's talk about getting you folks somewhere safe. We've got a cargo bay we can modify for your environmental needs. It won't be comfortable, but it'll keep you alive until we can get you to a proper rescue station." But as the humans began discussing modifications to their ship, as they casually planned to alter their vessel systems to accommodate beings they had never met before, the Zephyrians could only think one thing. What kind of species was so confident, so capable, so frighteningly competent that they could solve any problem, fix any damage, adapt to any situation? And more importantly, what did these terrifying rescuers really want with 12 helpless research scientists? The answers to those questions would determine whether they lived to see their home world again, or whether they had just traded a quick death in space for something much, much worse. The modified cargo bay on the human ship felt like stepping into a nightmare. Even with the environmental adjustments, everything about the space screamed danger to the Zephyrian senses. The walls were thick metal instead of their familiar crystal. The lighting was harsh white instead of gentle blue, and every surface looked like it had been built to survive explosions. "This should work for you," Captain Rodriguez said, checking a handheld device that monitored the atmospheric conditions. "We've lowered the gravity to point to standard and adjusted the air mixture. It's not perfect, but it should keep you comfortable." Point to standard gravity still felt crushing to the Zephyrians. What the humans called comfortable was like being pressed down by invisible weights. But they were alive, and that was more than they had expected an hour ago. Engineer Chen was explaining their ship's propulsion system to Wisptel, and the conversation was making every alien more terrified by the minute. "Your fusion drive is interesting," Chen said, examining readings on her scanner. "Very gentle, very safe. But you know what would really improve efficiency? If you increased the plasma temperature by about 3,000 degrees and boosted the magnetic containment field strength." Wisptel's tendrils went pale with shock. That would create energy outputs capable of destroying a small planet if the containment failed. "Yeah, but the efficiency gains would be incredible," Chen replied with enthusiasm. "We use similar modifications on our mining ships all the time. Sure, there's some risk, but that's true of any decent propulsion system. Some risk." The human was casually suggesting modifications that could vaporize their entire ship, and she called it some risk. To the Zephyrians, it was like suggesting they replaced their gentle heating system with a controlled nuclear explosion. "How do your people survive such dangerous technology?" Wisptel asked weakly. Chen shrugged. "Good engineering and better safety protocols. Plus, you learn to work with dangerous stuff when you grow up mining asteroids and radiation fields." The casual mention of radiation fields made several Zephyrians feel faint. Radiation was something their species avoided at all costs. These humans worked in it like it was nothing more than bad weather. Meanwhile, Dr. Patel was trying to understand Zephyrian biology, and his questions were becoming increasingly horrifying to his subjects. "So your skeletal system is entirely cartilaginous," he mused, making notes on his device. "And your organs can shut down temporarily under stress. Fascinating adaptation. On Earth, we call that going into shock, and it usually means someone is dying. Our stress response is perfectly normal," Velter said defensively. "It allows us to survive difficult situations by reducing our body's energy needs, right? But what happens if you get injured? How do you handle broken bones, internal bleeding, tissue damage?" The questions made no sense to the Zephyrians. Their species had evolved in a world so gentle that serious injury was almost unknown. They had healing processes for minor damage, but the kind of trauma Dr. Patel was describing was beyond their experience. "We don't get injured in such ways," Velter admitted. Dr. Patel looked genuinely puzzled. "Never? What about accidents, falls, equipment malfunctions? Our world is very safe," Wisptel explained. "We have eliminated most sources of physical danger. Through careful planning and gentle technology, Dr. Patel said, as if the concept of a safe world was something he had never considered. That must be nice. On Earth, kids break bones climbing trees. It's basically a normal part of growing up. The idea that human children regularly suffered injuries that would be life-threatening to adult Zephyrians was so disturbing that several aliens had to sit down. Things got worse when Specialist Kumar invited them to see the crew quarters. The human living spaces looked like military bunkers compared to the soft, organic curves of Zephyrian architecture. Everything was hard angles and metal surfaces, designed to withstand impacts and resist damage. This is where we eat, Kumar said, opening what he called a food storage area. What the Zephyrians saw inside defied their understanding of nutrition. Sealed containers held substances that looked more like chemical compounds than food. Hard blocks labeled protein bars contained ingredients with names they couldn't pronounce. Liquid containers promised enhanced electrolyte replacement and caffeine boost. This is food? Vilter asked in horror. Sure, Kumar replied, pulling out something wrapped in shiny material. Energy bars, dried fruits, processed meat, vitamin, supplements, standard space rations. He unwrapped what he called a beef jerky stick and bit into it with teeth that looked designed for tearing flesh. The sound of his chewing was like rocks grinding together. The Zephyrians, who absorbed nutrients by filtering microscopic particles from their environment, watched in shocked silence as the human consumed what appeared to be preserved animal tissue. Want to try some? Kumar offered, holding out the remaining portion. 3 Zephyrians fainted simultaneously. Captain Rodriguez, noticing the distress of his guests, tried to lighten the mood by showing them pictures of Earth on his personal device. The images had the opposite effect he intended. This is my hometown, he said proudly, displaying a picture of a human settlement surrounded by massive stone formations in what appeared to be a desert wasteland. Great place to grow up. Hot in summer, cold in winter, but it builds character. The Zephyrians stared at the image of a world that looked like a death trap. Extreme temperatures, harsh landscape, no visible sources of gentle nutrition or comfortable shelter. And this is from a camping trip last year, Rodriguez continued, showing another image. Me and my family spent a week hiking in the mountains. The picture showed humans carrying heavy packs across terrain that looked actively hostile to life. Rocky peaks, steep drops, and what appeared to be weather conditions that would freeze most galactic species solid. You voluntarily went to such a place? Velter asked in disbelief. For fun, Rodriguez confirmed. There's nothing like breathing clean mountain air and testing yourself against nature. The concept of testing oneself against nature was completely alien to the Zephyrians. Nature, in their experience, was something to live in harmony with, not something to battle for entertainment. Engineer Chen joined the conversation, pulling up images from her own device. Check this out, she said excitedly. This is from my training days in the asteroid mines. That's me operating a plasma drill in a Class 5 radiation zone. The image showed a human figure in protective gear, working with equipment that glowed with barely contained energy, surrounded by space that would have been instantly lethal to most known life forms. The pay was great, Chen continued, and you really learn to appreciate regular atmosphere after spending 6 months in a radiation suit. By now, the Zephyrians were convinced they were in the presence of the most dangerous species the galaxy had ever produced. These humans didn't just survive in hostile conditions. They sought them out. They ate toxic substances, worked in lethal environments, and treated mortal danger as a form of recreation. Captain Velter made a decision that would haunt him for the rest of the journey, while the humans were busy making repairs and adjustments to keep their guests comfortable. He quietly activated a long-range communication device. The message he sent to the Galactic Peacekeeping Force was coded as an emergency priority alert. Have encountered unknown species claiming to be rescuers. Beings appear to be from extremely hostile world. Demonstrate casual disregard for safety protocols and survival instincts. May represent threat to galactic civilization. Request immediate assistance and quarantine protocols. As he sent the message, Velter looked around at the humans working. so hard to save his crew. They were being kind, helpful, and generous with their time and resources. But kindness from beings this dangerous might be the most terrifying thing of all. The alarm that suddenly echoed through the human ship was unlike anything the Zephyrians had heard before. It wasn't the gentle chimes their own vessels used to indicate problems. This was harsh, urgent, and designed to cut through any distraction. To demand immediate attention, Captain Rodriguez's voice came over the ship's communication system. And for the first time since meeting him, the aliens heard something that sounded like concern in his rough tone. All crew to battle stations. We have 3 unknown vessels approaching fast. Configuration suggests hostile intent. Battle stations. The words sent ice through Zephyrian hearts. They had suspected these humans were warriors, but now their fears were being confirmed. The rescue had been a trap, and now the humans were preparing to reveal their true nature. Through the viewing port in their modified cargo bay, Velter could see the approaching ships. They were sleek and predatory, built for speed and aggression, even to Zephyrian eyes. Accustomed to peaceful vessels, these ships looked dangerous. Korthic raiders. Engineer Chen muttered as she ran past their chamber, carrying what looked like a weapon that belonged in a military arsenal rather than on a civilian rescue ship. Should have known they'd show up. Korthic raiders. The name was familiar to the Zephyrians, notorious pirates who preyed on disabled ships throughout this sector of space. But what terrified them more was how quickly the humans had identified the threat and how efficiently they were responding to it. Dr. Patel appeared in the doorway. No longer the gentle medic they had met hours before. He was now wearing different equipment, harder, more angular, with devices attached that clearly weren't medical instruments. You folks need to stay in here and keep quiet, he told the huddled aliens. We're about to have visitors, and they're not the friendly kind. Before any Zephyrian could respond, he was gone, moving with the same quick efficiency that had frightened them during the rescue. The ship around them began to change. Let's shift it from the warm tones the humans had maintained for their guests to harsh red illumination. Mechanical sounds echoed through the corridors as systems activated that hadn't been running during their peaceful journey. They're powering up weapons, Wisptel whispered, reading the energy signatures through the wall sensors. This isn't a mining ship at all. It's disguised as one. Captain Velter felt his worst fears confirmed. The humans had been pretending to be peaceful miners, but now they were revealing their true nature as predators. The rescue had been an elaborate setup, and now they were about to witness whatever terrible fate these Deathworlders had planned for them. The Korthic ships were broadcasting their demands, and the translation came through the Zephyrian communication device they had been allowed to keep. Unknown vessel, this is Commander Thrak of the Korthic raiding fleet. You will surrender immediately and prepare to be boarded. Your cargo and passengers will be confiscated. According to salvage rights, the Korthic were themselves considered dangerous by galactic standards. They were a warrior species with natural armor plating and aggressive instincts, evolved on a harsh world that had forged them into effective predators. Most civilized species avoided them completely. What happened next defied every expectation the Zephyrians had about how conflicts should be resolved. Instead of attempting to negotiate, instead of trying to flee, instead of surrendering to the obviously superior force, Captain Rodriguez's voice came back over the communication channel. Commander Thrak, this is Captain Rodriguez of the Earth vessel Resilience. We are conducting a rescue operation. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. The audacity of the response left the Zephyrians speechless. The humans were outnumbered 3-1 by ships that were clearly built for combat, and they were issuing threats instead of pleas for mercy. You dare threaten us? Came the Korthic commander's reply, filled with the kind of rage that had made his species feared across the galaxy. Prepare to die, unknown fools. What followed was a display of tactical thinking that seemed to prove everything the Zephyrians feared about human nature. The Resilience didn't try to run. Instead, it accelerated directly toward the largest Korthic vessel at speeds that should have crushed everyone aboard from the pressure. Hang on back there, came Rodriguez's voice over the internal communication system. This might get bumpy. The human captain called a direct assault on a superior enemy force bumpy like it was rough weather. The Zephyrians watched in terror and amazement as their rescuers executed maneuvers that defied logic. The Resilience spun and twisted through space with precision that suggested the crew had done this many times before. Weapons that had been disguised as mining equipment revealed their true purpose, striking the Korthic ships with devastating accuracy. Engineer Chen's voice echoed through the ship as she coordinated the attack. Plasma cutters are online and targeted, mining charges loaded and ready for deployment. The humans were using their mining equipment as weapons, turning tools designed for asteroid processing into instruments of space combat. What had seemed like peaceful industrial gear was now revealed as a hidden arsenal. The battle that followed was unlike anything in Zephyrian experience, where their species would have attempted diplomacy, retreat, or surrender. The humans fought with a ferocity and skill that turned the numerical advantage meaningless. Specialist Kumar's voice came over the communication system. Target their engines, not their life support. We want them alive to face justice, even in combat. The humans were showing a kind of mercy that confused the watching aliens. They were devastating their opponents while deliberately avoiding fatal strikes. The first Korthic ship lost power and began drifting. The second tried to flee but found its escape route blocked by the incredibly maneuverable human vessel. The third ship, seeing the fate of its companions, made a desperate attempt to ram the Resilience. Amateur move, Dr. Patel's voice commented. Calmly, Chen, give them a taste of the mining charges. The explosive devices that humans use to break apart asteroids found a new target. The ramming Korthic ship found itself caught in a web of precisely placed explosions that disabled its weapons and engines without destroying the vessel entirely. In less than 10 minutes, 3 Korthic raider ships, vessels that had terrorized this sector of space for years, were floating helplessly in the void. Commander Thrak, Captain Rodriguez's voice returned to the communication channel. Your ships are disabled and your crews are alive. You have two choices. Surrender peacefully and face trial for piracy, or try to fight with whatever backup systems you have left and find out how creative human miners can get with industrial equipment. The silence that followed stretched for long moments. Then came the Korthic commander's reply, and for the first time in the history of his species, interactions with galactic civilization, it was a plea rather than a threat. We surrender. Please, we surrender. As the humans began the process of securing the pirate vessels and preparing them for delivery to the nearest galactic authority station, the Zephyrians huddled in their modified cargo bay and tried to process what they had witnessed. These terrifying Deathworlders had just defeated 3 ships full of the galaxy's most feared pirates. They had done it with mining equipment and casual competence, treating mortal combat like a routine work assignment. And now they were talking about delivering the prisoners to proper authorities for fair trial. What kind of species fought like demons but showed mercy to their enemies? What kind of beings could be so terrifyingly effective in battle while maintaining principles about justice and proper legal procedures? The Zephyrians were beginning to realize that everything they thought they knew about the humans might be wrong, but that realization only made their rescuers more frightening, not less. The aftermath of the battle left the Resilience floating in space, surrounded by 3 disabled Korthic vessels. Inside the modified cargo bay, the Zephyrians sat in stunned silence, trying to understand what they had just witnessed. Captain Rodriguez appeared in their doorway, no longer wearing the combat equipment that had made him look like a warrior. He was back to his regular clothing, looking tired but satisfied. In his hands, he carried a steaming cup of something that smelled bitter and strong. Everyone okay in here? He asked, settling down on the floor near them. The gesture of sitting made him smaller, less intimidating, though he was still larger than any Zephyrian. We are unharmed, Captain Velta replied carefully, but we must ask, what are you people? We have seen you rescue us with kindness, then fight with terrifying skill. And now you speak of justice for your enemies. We do not understand. Rodriguez took a sip from his cup and sighed. Yeah, I guess we must seem pretty confusing from your perspective. Tell me, Captain Velter, what's your home world like? The question seemed safe enough. Zephyria is a gentle world, Velter replied. Our weather is mild and predictable. Our gravity is light. Our oceans are calm, and our continents are stable. We have eliminated most sources of danger through careful planning and peaceful technology. Sounds beautiful, Rodriguez said, and there was genuine warmth in his voice. Earth is different. He activated his personal device and showed them images of his home world. But this time, instead of focusing on the harsh landscapes, he explained what they meant. This is Earth, he said, showing them a blue and green planet swirled with white clouds. Looks peaceful from space, doesn't it? But down on the surface, it's a world that tries to end you every single day. More images appeared, massive storms that could flatten entire cities, earthquakes that split the ground open, volcanoes that turn day into night with ash and fire. Our planet has weather that can freeze you solid or cook you alive, Rodriguez continued. The ground shakes without warning. Mountains explode. The very air can become poison during storms. Our oceans have waves tall enough to swallow buildings. The Zephyrians listened with growing horror and fascination. But the really dangerous part isn't the planet itself, Rodriguez went on. It's everything that lives on it. Our world is full of creatures that view other living things as food. We evolved surrounded by predators that could hunt us, diseases that could destroy us, and plants that could poison us, Dr. Patel joined them, sitting down with his own cup of the bitter-smelling liquid. Every human child grows up learning to identify dozens of ways the world might try to hurt them. He added, we learn which animals to avoid, which plants not to touch, how to find clean water, how to make fire, how to treat injuries. By the time we're adults, Engineer Chen said, appearing with her own cup, we've survived things that would end most galactic species before they learn to walk. But that doesn't make us cruel, Specialist Kumar added, completing the gathering. It makes us protective, Rodriguez nodded. When you grow up on a world where everything is trying to hurt you, you learn two important things. First, you get tough enough to survive anything. Second, you value the people who help you survive. He gestured toward the disabled Korthic ships visible through the viewing port. Those pirates prey on beings who can't defend themselves. They take advantage of species like yours, peaceful, gentle, trusting, on Earth. We have a saying, the only thing necessary for evil to triumph is for good people to do nothing. But you fought them so efficiently, Velter said. You move like you were born for combat. In a way, we were, Chen replied. But not because we're aggressive, because we're survivors. Every human learns to fight. Not because we enjoy violence, but because sometimes fighting is the only way to protect the people you care about. Dr. Patel pulled up images on his device, humans working together to rebuild after natural disasters, rescue teams pulling people from collapsed buildings, medical volunteers treating patients in dangerous conditions. This is what we really are, he said. We're the species that runs toward danger when others need help. We're the ones who risk our lives for strangers because we understand what it means to be helpless. The conversation was interrupted by an incoming communication. The display showed an official Galactic Peacekeeping Force vessel approaching their location. A known vessel. This is Commander Zaltari of the GPS Harmony. We received a distress signal reporting dangerous aliens in this sector. Please identify yourselves and prepare for inspection. Rodriguez looked puzzled for a moment, then understanding dawned on his face. He looked at Captain Velter, who was turning a deeper shade of blue with embarrassment. You sent that message about us, didn't you? Rodriguez asked gently. Velter nodded miserably. I was afraid. You seemed so dangerous, so unlike any species we had encountered. I thought you might be a threat to galactic civilization. Instead of anger, Rodriguez laughed, that rough, grinding sound that no longer seemed threatening to Zephyrian ears. I guess I can understand that. From your perspective, we probably do look like the galaxy's worst nightmare. The Galactic Peacekeeping Force ship docked with them, and Commander Zaltari came aboard, a graceful being similar to the Zephyrians, but with silver markings that indicated authority and experience. Captain Rodriguez, Zaltari said formally, We have received reports that your species may pose a threat to galactic peace and security. Rodriguez gestured to the disabled Korthic ships. Those 3 vessels were attacking a damaged civilian research ship. We intervened and captured the pirates. The research crew is safe and their ship is repaired. Commander Zaltari examined the evidence, spoke with the Zephyrians, and reviewed the recorded communications from the battle. As the investigation continued, his expression changed from suspicion to amazement. You defeated 3 Korthic raiders without destroying them or harming their crews, he said finally. You showed mercy to beings who have never shown mercy to others. And you did this while protecting civilians you had never met before. It's what anyone would do. Rodriguez replied, No, Zaltari said firmly, it is not what anyone would do. Most species would have fled or negotiated. Some would have fought, but few would have won. None would have shown such restraint and victory. The commander turned to address his own crew over the communication system. Cancel the threat assessment. These humans are not a danger to galactic civilization. They are exactly what galactic civilization needs. 3 months later, Captain Rodriguez received a message that would change everything for humanity. It came from the Galactic Council itself, signed by representatives of 47 different species. The Terran vessel Resilience and her crew have demonstrated capabilities and principles that make them ideal candidates for the Galactic Protection Service. We formally request that Earth consider joining our alliance, not as probationary members, but as senior partners in maintaining peace and security throughout known space. The message continued with details that amazed every human who read it. Dozens of distress calls were coming in from across the galaxy, all specifically requesting assistance from the Deathworlders ships, species that had lived in fear of pirates, raiders, and aggressive neighbors were asking for help from the beings they had initially thought were the most dangerous of all, it seems. Rodriguez told his crew as they prepared for their next mission that the galaxy has been waiting for someone willing to stand between the innocent and those who would hurt them. They just never expected that someone to come from a world like Earth. Engineer Chen smiled as she checked their course for a rescue mission in the distant Andromeda sector. Good thing we're too stubborn to know when something is supposed to be impossible, and too protective to let anyone hurt people who can't defend themselves. Dr. Patel added as the Resilience set course for their new mission. Captain Rodriguez looked out at the stars and thought about all the gentle, peaceful species out there who had never learned to fight because they had never needed to. They wouldn't need to learn now. Earth's children would stand guard instead. After all, that's what family does for each other. And in a galaxy full of fragile, beautiful civilizations, humanity had just found the biggest family they had ever imagined.